through my veins. On the pitch where the glory remains, the cockerel stands brave on the crest. North London pride, this ain't no jest. From lane to the new shining ground, echo chants where the legends are found. Heroes carved in the heart of time, we march on through grit and grime. Oh Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Oh Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. Echoes of King and Greaves in the air. Every goal, the sound declares. Heartbeats pound like a drummer's song, marching forward, fierce and strong. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire. We're the ones who rise in the clash. Numbers running in a white shirt dash. History burns in the roaring crowd. Every game we scream it loud. I'm Tottenham, Tottenham till I die. Raise the banner, let it fly. Through the rain, through the fire, this is my club, my only desire.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. And this is Newsbeat on THFC Till We Die. This is awesome, right? For those that were tuning in and hoping to see Dermashon, he had a last-minute thing that he had to take care of. So he gave me a call and asked if I would sub for him, and it's an honor to do so. So thank you for tuning in. As Derma and I will be back a little bit later tonight at 8 o'clock UK time for our regularly scheduled programming. Before we begin, go ahead and hit your like and subscribe buttons as we are on a march to 5K. That is the goal. 5,000 subscribers by the end of the 2025-2026 season. So go ahead and make sure you hit your likes as well too, to let the algorithm do what algorithms do. All right, man, it's Newsbeat, which is our daily Tottenham Hotspur Newswire show that's going to be essentially pretty much every single day throughout the summer transfer window. And we have a few things that we're going to talk about today as well too. Before we begin, we have Spurs Side Chat. What's up, man? Good to see you. Glad you're along. All right. Interesting things that have transpired. And I'm going to start off by saying that this is, as of right now, rumor. I am still waiting on confirmation. But the rumor is that Daniel Levy has made a decision on Ange Postecoglou. And it will be within 48 hours that he will announce it. And the only reason why it hasn't been announced yet is because he wants the euphoria of the Europa League to settle down before he comes public with this decision. And again, it is only rumor. And as soon as we have it confirmed, we will come live on YouTube to break that news. But the reality is that I think this is probably going to be it for Ange Postecoglou. That whether it is going to be whether it's going to be an outright sack or it's going to be a mutual agreement, Ange Postecoglou, now allegedly, again, until I get this confirmed, this is still rumor, but Daniel Levy will make the move to send Ange Postecoglou on his way, which means there will be a vacancy for head coach at Tottenham Hotspur. And joining us in the chat is Colin. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. So interesting, and I don't think this is going to be surprising. I think a lot of people understood that this was probably this is a long time coming. And the only question that I had regarding Ange Postecoglou was whether or not the Europa League trophy, Spurs' first European trophy in 40 years, was good enough to withstand the 21 losses in the league, 22 losses, whatever it was in the league. And I said no. And the reason why I said no is, for as great as the Europa League trophy is, he made a conscious decision to punt the Premier League. And as you know, Tottenham Hotspur is all about revenue, is all about profit and sustainability. And listen, if you're Daniel Levy, the most important thing is where you stand at the end of the season. Yes. Champions League is very big for Daniel Levy because it means at least 100 million next season. But for this season, when you look at everything in a vacuum, this probably was one of the most disastrous seasons in Tottenham Hotspur history from a financial standpoint. Because as you know, the higher that you climb in the table means that the prize money is differential. And there was a time this season, right as the winter transfer window is, and we were kind of on that tipping point of whether or not this team was able to kick on in the league versus the Europa League. And I think Ange Postecoglou just looked at it and said, listen, man, I don't know whether or not I have players that I can trust to not only run my attack, but to be able to carry this team forward. Surely there are players that he could trust, but when you factor everything in, you were looking at specific players that picked and choose when they wanted to show up. You had players that were just too raw, too young prospects that you were banking on to help you carry through certain points of the season. And it just, there was a reason why, Ange Postecoglou switched tactics toward the end to a more pragmatic approach, to a more of a counterattacking style, because that suited the players that were there. As a result, it was a conscious decision to put all his eggs in the Europa League basket. Sure enough, it paid off. Congratulations. You won Spurs' first trophy in 18 years? Ended the trophy drought. So on one hand, you have that, but on the other hand, you have a 17th place finish in the league, which is, I hate to say it, man, it was probably one of the more embarrassing things Tottenham Hotspur had to endure. And the weekly, I'll just say it, the weekly shit show that we had to experience day in and day out for 4 months? The Ange in, Ange out debate. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. That was, I hate to say it, man, that was embarrassing. As a Tottenham Hotspur fan, it was absolutely embarrassing to see our team essentially whittled down to this, which was a joke, right? 100% was a joke. That's on Ange Postecoglou. Unfortunately, that was on Ange Postecoglou because that was the decision that he made, for better or for worse. For better or for worse, that was the decision that he made, and there is going to be repercussions for his actions. And this is it. This is the repercussion. These are the consequences. That there was a good chance that you were going to be unemployed come the summer. And again, still rumor. but it is pointing in that direction that Daniel Levy, within the next 48 hours, will make a public announcement that Ange Postecoglou has been let go from his position, which means financially, it's going to be at least $7 million for Ange Postecoglou out the door, because he still has another year on his contract, which I believe is the only reason why he was still in it. It was financial. They easily could have done it. They could have done it after Tamworth. 100% they could have done it after Tamworth, and I think it probably would have been justified at that point in time. But they decided to hold on to Ange Postecoglou for a couple reasons. Number one, he was taking all the hits with the press. He was answering questions that he had no business answering. And if you notice, Daniel Levy, Johan Lang, and Scott Munn were nowhere near the media. And it was Ange Postecoglou sitting front and center. He was the one taking all the hits. So that's the first reason. But also, it was a financial. It was financial, because if you waited to the end of the season to make that decision, it was going to be a less of a financial hit. And if you remember, he's got a 3+1. So essentially, how his contract works is it's 3 guaranteed plus an option. And I think that if they waited towards the end of the season, that option, essentially becomes null and void. So essentially, Ange Postecoglou has 1 year left on his deal, which I believe is $5 million, plus the $2 million bonus for winning Europa League. So all in, it's going to be a $7 million pound hit. And that also opens the door for distinct possibilities moving forward. Quickly, before we get into those, I also want to say thank you to Spurs Side Chat, who has become a YouTube member. I definitely like that. We also have, he also goes on to saying, having a trophy, yes, it's good, but he's been poor for the last season and a half. And absolutely, this wasn't just a 2024-2025 issue. This goes to the second half of the year prior. You're absolutely right about that. Wayne Bonner says, "Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well." Yep, Wayne, good to have you. Tequila, who has been as Ange out as there has been any other fan. He says Ange is the worst premier manager Spurs have ever had. Only Santini gives him a run for his money, and he was on his backside within 2 months. Here's the thing, man. When we look back at the 2024-2025 season, we're not going to talk about the losses. We're going to be talking about the Europa League trophy. And he is now only one of 3 to ever deliver a European trophy. So from that standpoint, on one hand, yes, Tequila, I agree with you. The results in the Premier League were absolutely dreadful. But that being said, he still did win this club's first trophy, and I can't remember how long. So it is what it is. Like there are some give and takes with Ange Postecoglou. I certainly wish him well, and I do think that you will see Ange Postecoglou in a big job. I do. I think winning the Europa League and showing that he can actually perform in Europe there's going to be teams that are going to be interested in him and who probably will back him accordingly versus what Spurs did. Let's see. We also have Wayne Bonner, who says, Spurs only cares about money and image. Levy needs to do proper transfer business. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? From Tottenham Hotspur standpoint, not from fans, because the expectation for fans is what we have always wanted, which is a proper football club, proper backing of a manager, and allowing them to compete on all 4 fronts, not just one. And I think this year we saw it was really only competition on 2 fronts: the League Cup, to which we got to within 90 minutes of Wembley, and also the Europa League, which we ended up winning. So, only being able to compete on 2 of 4 fronts was absolutely disastrous for this team. And it just is what it is. We have, let's see. We have Colm, who's saying big up Spurs side. Let's see. We also have Wayne Bonner, who says the trophy was deserved because we earned it. I like Ange, but 22 league defeats is relegation fodder. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest problem, right? The biggest problem for me is that in any other year, 22 league losses is an absolute relegation. And it just so happens there were 3 teams that were just absolutely worse because of the just how poorly Leicester, Southampton, and Ipswich were, that we were able to just avoid relegation. So if you want to do anything, thank those 3 sides, because we were able to stay up just by the skin of our teeth. Adrian checks in. He says, "Good afternoon, Steve." Good afternoon to you, Adrian. Hope you're doing well. Tequila asked, "Steve, surely you wanted the clan out. Thank for the cup. He will go down in history, both good and bad." The issue is that I respect Ange Postecoglou. I do, because I know his history and I know that he is a winner, 100%. And if anything, what the Europa League, what the Europa League trophy does is back that up, because he knew exactly how to push the right buttons when he knew how to push them, and he actually got the very best out of players who were hot and cold all season. I mean, there was no, it wasn't a coincidence that Dom Solanke got hot right at the right time. I think that shows that Ange Postecoglou definitely understood the assignment, and he got it done. But that being said, I also have to acknowledge that his league form ultimately is the reason why he's getting sacked, because that's where your money comes from, right? Your money doesn't come from Europa. Winning Europa was worth what? Maybe $10 million, right? But that being said, had he finished in the top 10, that's it's probably upwards of 50 million pounds. So that's where your bread and butter is. That's where your money is at. And to finish 17 and have it affect your bottom line, of course you're going to get fired. You cannot affect your business's bottom line and stay in a job. And I don't care what industry you're in, right? If I go to work and I affect my employer's bottom line, best believe I'm probably not going to have a job for too much. We also have Colm, who says trophies are all good and well. Again, congratulations, but football is and will always be results based. It's been shown no matter how many trophies you win, league form matters the most, 100%. All right, so I guess that means who's next. And of course, I still keep hearing Marco Silva, even though Marco Silva has publicly said that he's still focused on Fulham and Fulham's transfer window. That name keeps surrounding. Oliver Glasner also keeps popping up as well too. So you would probably assume that they're looking inside the Premier League. They are going to be looking inside the Premier League for their next head coach. As far as Xavi goes, maybe. Right now Tottenham unfortunately is not tipping their hands one way or another. Exactly who that goes. The first thing that actually has to happen in this sequence of events is Daniel Levy has to make that public. That Ange Postecoglou will indeed be shown the door. At that point, I would probably assume they're going to make that announcement as quick as possible. From my understanding is they already knew who the next coach is going to be. He is waiting on the side, and as soon as that decision to Ange Postecoglou is made publicly, I would probably assume that within the next 24 hours from that decision, we will know who the next coach of Tottenham Hotspur will be. That's usually how these things work. It does not take that long to have that next coach in place. And by the way, they should, because not only does the new coach have to come in, he also has to be a part of the whole summer transfer window, because there is a certain player profile that a new manager wants. And the last thing you can do is have this drag through the summer, because this coach needs to come in and he has to have all his ducks in a row so he can actually have his first preseason and also the transfer window as well too. In total column, it probably I would say that throughout the course of it, I'm sure there are bonuses throughout the course, but I think the actual final is the payout for the final is something small. I'd have to look it up, but anyway. See, and Colm said, Newcastle made 45 mil for finishing fifth. That's exactly right? So the higher that you go up in the table means the payout is going to be higher in the Premier League as well too. And so when you sacrifice your Premier League form to go all out for a Europa League, and this is where you finish, it affects your bottom line. But moving on to, because this show is only going to be a small one. Word coming out of Crystal Palace that Mark Gahey and Crystal Palace have held exit interviews, meaning that it would be a shock if Mark Gahey does not make a move. And of course, as we know, Tottenham made a £70 million offer for the defender in the winter window, at the end of the winter window, as ridiculous as that was, which got turned down. He still remains a high priority for Tottenham Hotspur, with the caveat that Christian Romero will be exiting this summer. I have been told that those ties are as strong today as they were back in the winter window, that Tottenham Hotspur really, really, really want Mark Gahey. And now the exit interviews has been held. This is, I wouldn't say a formality, but Mark Gahey will be a top target for Tottenham Hotspur moving forward. The question is, has there been any discussions between Christian Romero and Tottenham Hotspur? Because the one of the things that, from my standpoint is, you don't want to disrupt the chemistry between those two center backs if you can avoid it. The question is did things change for Christian Romero? Because listen, I've been in these positions too many times before playing myself. There are bad seasons. And when you are in the midst of a bad season, the only thing you want to do is find your way at the door, because at the end of the day, man, you just want to win, and you want to be in an organization that cares about winning. You want to make sure that when it comes to player acquisition, that they have their best in mind. And when you're going through these type of seasons, and it just seems like every single time you step on the field, you're losing. The last thing you want to do is continue down that road, because all it's going to do is, it's going to change your mood. It's going to change your demeanor. There's certain players that you look at with contempt, because you're out there trying your best and you're wondering whether or not they're trying their best. It's just a bad situation. But that being said, towards the end of the season, when it was looking like we were advancing in the Europa League, and then we get to a final and we win it, and now all of a sudden the dynamic changes, because now we do have Champions League. The question is, did that dynamic change the mind of Christian Romero? Because if there is any hint that he would be willing to allow Paratici to change his mind, that's the question that I have. Because I would rather keep Christian Romero than spend £70 million plus on a dude like Mark Gahey. This is no disrespect to Mark Gahey. I think he's a good defender. But the question is was there any change of mind from Christian Romero that he'd be willing to at least stick around for another season to allow Tottenham Hotspur to show their ambition? Because that's the path. That's the path of least resistance, keeping Christian Romero. But if that decision's already been made, fair enough. Then you pivot. You pivot to Mark Gahey. The question I guess the question that I have for you is, number one, would you rather keep Christian Romero? And two, do you think Mark Gahey is a good fit for Tottenham Hotspur? Pretty simple question. I just think that me personally, from a continuity standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, I would rather not break up the chemistry between him and Mikey Van de Ven. Me personally, I think they're one of the best center back pairings in the Premier League, if not the best. And I think Tottenham's back five is probably up there. But that being said, Dan Davenport brings up a brings up a very interesting point. He said, yeah, because he's English. And when you're talking about, Champions League and some of these other factors, he's a homegrown player, these type of things. And obviously those numbers have to, those numbers matter. But that being said, do you think that Mark Gahey is a better fit for Tottenham Hotspur than Christian Romero? I know that Spurs side chat says that Romero is overrated. I don't think so. People who think Spurs are a bigger draw than Madrid need to take their blinkers off, with all due respect. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, see, the thing about it is, it's me personally, I'm in the boat that we need to make sure that we have enough capital in order to pull this summer transfer window off. So from the first team, Richarlison, Basuma, 100% are gone. Without a doubt, 100% are gone in my estimation. But that being said, can you get Betancourt to sign an extension? And can you convince Romero to stay for another year? Because there's plenty of other players that you can actually cash in on. Josh Keeley, the other guy from Leighton North, Jamie Donnelly. And I know that people love Jamie Donnelly. I like him as well too. But because of the season that he just had on loan, there is a good possibility that you could potentially get 20 mil for the player. And that's a good piece of business. That's the way that I look at this as well too. And by the way, don't get me started on Kevin Danso, Wayne. I'll talk about that in just a second before we go. The reality is Spurs have a lot of guys on their peripheral of their first team roster that if you're looking to raise funds in order to have the best summer transfer window, all of those guys have to be in play. You're going to have guys who are out of contract. Okay, that's fine. Doesn't put a strain on their wage bill. But that being said, the priority should be those that are coming back off alone, with the exception of a few. Those guys should be available to move on. Because I would rather this team take chances in the transfer window to improve this team than keep an overbloated first team roster, especially if you know that they're probably not going to have they have an outside chance looking at the first team, and most likely will go back on loan again anyway. I would rather take the upfront cash now than continue to have a strain on the first team wage bill. But that being said, for Christian Romero, if you're asking me which do I prioritize, Christian Romero or Rodrigo Betancourt, I prioritize Romero. And if you get a good $50 million offer for Betancourt, then that's the guy that you move off of, because at least you have in-house replacements at the 6, but also you can go out there and potentially bring in a game-changing 6 for that type of money. Let's see. Dan Davenport says, I would cash in on Romero. There are other options that you can cash into. He also goes in and says, I would love Eze from Palace. And yeah, that's another player worth keeping an eye on, because he has made comments prior that would be a good landing spot for him as well too. So I actually think pairing Eze with James Maddison would be just absolutely brilliant in this midfield. But Wayne Bonner says Romero is solid. He showed in the latter stage of the Europa League what he can do. He and Mickey are superb together, 100%. And under a new coach, in playing in a system that is going to be more suitable to that back five, I think you would see just how good those two players could be. Playing in a system that expects high level. Again, no disrespect to Ange Postecoglou. I don't know, man. Sometimes I question what the expectation was of this squad. Calm says Atletico will be trying everything they can to get Romero. Spurs are prepared for a war. However, his contract runs out in 2027. If he has any interest at all on Madrid, sell him and don't lose out on funds. Yeah, but here's the thing, Colin, right? He's got 2 years left on his deal. Why sell him now, especially if he comes back and puts together a monster season with 1 year left on his contract? All that will do is drive up his value. And if you think there's going to be a bidding war now, imagine coming off of next season. That bidding war is going to get higher. And now you're talking in the realm of 80 to 100 million pounds. Just saying. I'd keep Betancourt. I have an absolute faith in Paratici. We'll get Benny to sign on the contract. He's one of our better players. Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I believe it was Wayne Bonner, as long as we keep Danso as well. The thing about Danso is I think Danso is a very good squad player. I think he's the type of guy that you use in cup competitions, and he can hold his own. The problem that I have with Danso is even with him coming over at the winter deadline, the winter window, excuse me, I think the sample size is small. I don't think he showed us whether or not he's able to compete week in and week out at the Premier League. That's my only problem. Do I think he's good enough to compete for a starting spot? Yeah. And that's why you bring him in, because you think that he's good enough that he can push somebody. But can Kevin Danso win a spot and then hold a spot at the Premier League level? I don't know. That's the truth. I don't know. What else? Are you doing a watch along for the Champions League final as well as some watch alongs for the Club World Cup? The answer is yes. As far as the Champions League, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. That decision has not been made. But as far as the Club World Cup, 100%, I'll be doing some watch alongs for the Club World Cup. Yes, 100%, which you can see on Stateside Footy. So make sure you head over there and like and subscribe, because we not only do we do the MLS watch along every single week, but we will be doing Club World Cup matches as well too. So, and U.S. men's national team. So there's plenty of watch alongs on Stateside Footy. Let's see. We got him for like 15 mil or something, selling him for triple that value. Big win for Spurs. Yeah, listen, man. I understand, but you have to be smart about this. Selling him now, would you get a good return from 100%? Do I think he's more than a 60 million pound player? 100%, right? So for me, it's like there's no need to sell him now with 2 years left. You sell him with 1 year left on his contract, so that'd be next summer. That's when you sell him, in the summer of 2026 with 1 year left. And especially if he comes back this upcoming season and just has a monster season, that bidding war will go up. Question for you in the chat. Knowing his contract runs out in 27, Madrid put a 70 in Italian, and you get all up. And you get it all up front? If it's 80, yeah, probably. I know what I just said, but yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so let's see. Steve, so you think Levy will say to Ange, well done for finishing 7th? What do you mean? Do I think he will say well done for finishing 17th? No, I think Daniel Levy is pissed off that they finished 17th. But at the very least, they backdoored their way into the Champions League. Calm says, I see your thought process on him running, but the risk is running down his contract is huge. And that's why the thing about it is sometimes you have to, like, that's the thing. Tottenham cannot be a team that sells their best players all the time. That is the problem with Tottenham Hotspur, is like in their history, they have sold their best players. Instead of trying to keep them, they've just sold them. And Tottenham actually have to make that decision of whether or not they're going to pay their players to stay. And if that means players make over 200,000 pounds a week, then you're going to have to make that decision. Now, do I think that he's one of our best players? 100%. But he's got 2 years left on his deal, and you don't have to sell him now. And by the way, if that means that you risk them leaving on a free, then sometimes you have to make that risk, especially if you know that trophies are on your horizon. And I still contend that this team is actually closer to trophies than not, regardless of the 17th place finish. Me personally, I think there are reasons why we finished 17th. A lot of that had to do with squad size and a lack of experience, which can be remedied in the summer. But that being said, you look at the core and you look at the spine of this team, it is better than most teams in the Premier League. And they played together for now, 3 years? So there is familiarity, there's continuity, and there's experience. And now, really, what you need is a high level coach to come in and then and put them in a position to take that to the next level. Me personally, having Vicario, Van de Ven, Romero, Betancourt, James Madison, Solanke, and whoever striker they bring on top of that, that spine is probably better than most in the Premier League. Just saying. Wayne Bonner asked, apparently Cardoso wants to move to Atletico. Yeah, I heard that as well too, right? But Spurs have the first right of refusal. Now, just because they have it doesn't mean that Cardoso is coming. Now, I've heard they've agreed to terms, but he's still available to negotiate with other clubs, which means Tottenham have to make that decision. They still hold the first right of refusal because of the Lo Celso deal. They still have the first right to bring him in. And yes, I realize that Cardoso wants to stay in Spain, and that would be I don't know. I don't know if that would be a good fit for him going to Atletico. At Tottenham, at least you know that he can come in and make a bid to be the starting six. And I think Spurs fans would love Johnny Cardoso. Just saying, for somebody that has seen his development since he was a kid, Cardoso actually is a very good six. And he can get forward if you need him to get forward. He's just a very good player. Let's see. We are a stepping stone for most players unless they are Spurs fans, which ain't many of them. Yeah, and I just think as we close this one, I just think that Tottenham are, eventually Tottenham and Daniel Levy have to draw a line in the sand and just say, no more. We're not going to be feeders to Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, FC Barcelona, Bayern Munich, PSG, whatever the case may be. Like we have to stop doing that. Eventually, we want to become one of those teams. And the only way that you do it is by keeping your best players in town through their prime seasons. And right now, Christian Romero is in his prime. And that's probably going to last for another 4 or 5 more seasons of top-level football. And you want him at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to do that. What he wants is ambition. And Tottenham have to match that ambition. He also wants respect. What does respect mean? He wants to get paid like a top 5 center back in the world. So that means you actually have to do that. So do it. Do it and keep that center back pairing at least for the next 3-4 years, and try to win a trophy with that. Because I'm telling you, man, I actually think this club is closer than not. Yeah, you're right, Colm. I think he has reached an agreement with Cardiff. So yeah, I think you're right. Let's see, Steve. Do you know if Pochettino has a clause in his contract? Yes, he does. He has a release clause, but it's $18 million release clause. So it's essentially £20 million to buy out his contract with the U.S. men's national team. And Spurs, by the way, will not pay that. I know that he wants to come back. Daniel Levy wants him back, but this is going to be more along the lines of the summer of 2026 at the earliest. Because number one, Pochettino is not going to leave the U.S. men's national team 1 year before a World Cup on their home soil. That is not going to happen. He will never leave the U.S. men's national team in a lurch like that 1 year before a World Cup in which they're hosting. But this is going to be bad. This is going to be more along the lines of the summer of 2026 at the earliest, when his contract comes out, because obviously he's only signed up through the rest of this cycle heading into the 2026 World Cup, and then after that, he has an option to re-sign for another cycle. Or if he wants to head back to the Premier League or any other league for that matter, he has the ability to do that. I just don't think that right now that's going to happen. That's going to be an issue for the summer of 2026. And then do they want to do it at that point in time, right? So if the new coach comes in and they finish 10th and they crash out in the league phase of the Champions League, and they can't get past the quarterfinals of either competition, and if they want to make a change for Pochettino, they certainly can at that point. So we'll see. Well, guys, I do want to thank you guys for coming in today. This was just a quick news beat. Later today on THFC Till We Die, we have a show. I believe it's going to be at 8 o'clock UK time. Dermatron will be back hosting that one, and I believe I'll be with them as well too. So there's definitely going to be that, as well as another news beat tomorrow, I believe. So there's definitely plenty going on this channel. Tomorrow on Stateside Footy, 7 a.m., we're going to have a year in review, which will be available on Full Time Sports Network, THFC, TWD, and of course Stateside Footy. And tomorrow night, the MLS watch along is going. The MLS watch along, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me double check this. I believe it's going to be. Yep, Chicago. It's going to be the Chicago Fire at Orlando City FC. OCFC is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and Chicago obviously is being led now by former U.S. men's national team coach Greg Berhalter. So that is going to be tomorrow night. I believe it's going to be 7:30 Eastern, 12:30 UK time. And of course, I know a lot of you guys, that might be a little late for you guys, but we do have a nice little contingent of UK fans that tune in for the watch along. So I am looking forward to see you guys tomorrow for that as well too. So there's plenty of stuff going on. I do want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank Gerard O'Connor, Tequila 316, Dan Davenport, Wayne Bonner, Adrian with Spurs Diehards TTID, and I don't know, Adrian, if there's going to be a show tonight, but you definitely head over to Spurs Diehards TTID and check him out as well too, because that channel is awesome. I also want to thank Colin, Jessica, who checked in real quick. I missed Jessica. She says, I think it will depend on if Ange is here or a new coach, and Zaghi with this 3-5-2. Yeah, exactly. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And again, later tonight, 8 o'clock, 3 Eastern, Dermatron will be back for a show tonight. So he's just right around the corner, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Head over to Stateside Footy and hit the like and subscribe buttons as well too. This channel is going everywhere, especially the summer transfer window. When it comes to breaking news, THFC TWD is where you get your breaking news, because we break a lot of it. And of course, for all you fans of Stateside Footy and American soccer, we also appreciate the support over there as well too. So thank you guys for joining in. You guys have a great Friday afternoon, and I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. I'm sure for some of you guys have grinded through the week and have been looking forward to this. So I hope you relax and enjoy it. Thank you again, guys. Have a great day.
Eyes on the prize.